Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity. Bare necessity, but simple bare necessity.
Hey there, it's Reber and welcome to another video. It has been a minute since I've sat down in front of the camera. Yes, my hair. It happened. Now I kind of wish I had put on a different necklace. Should I change necklaces? Maybe I'll just put on another one. Let's just, the more the merrier. Just low-key grabbed the closest one. It's just gonna have to do. I mean, I love this necklace, but kind of wanted to go with something different because I'm not wearing the earrings that go with this. Or like that match it. These, they go, but they don't match. Like, does that make any sense? Probably not. That's fine. So today I'm going to be doing my wrap up for the character boards for, I think this is Captain America and Thor is all that I'm talking about today. I could get a little bit mixed up. I apologize if I do, but we're just gonna go into it. So first we're gonna talk about Captain America. For Captain America's board, which looks like this, I did use a reward, or a reward for the Red Skull boss battle. Let me flip over to tell you what you get in the reward for that boss battle. Okay, the boss battle Red Skull was to take off 3 prompts from either Captain America, Black Widow, or Hawkeye. I had already created TBRs for both Black Widow and Hawkeye by the time that we had created this plan, so I therefore needed to use the reward only on Caps. So I have 3 that I took off. So I took off Stars on the Cover, Set in New York, Washington, or Germany, and a nonfiction about a historical era or event. Now, I could have completed these prompts, but since I had the reward, I didn't want to waste it. So I went ahead and threw those in there. Now, I also did use our group book for January for a couple of different prompts on this board. The group book was Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I talked about that in my wrap up for Black Widow and Hawkeye, or Black Widow and Hulk. So you can go to the link in the description, and that will give you my thoughts on this in a succinct spot. That book completed the prompts about an underdog and a character thrust into leadership. So that brings me to the one and only other book that I read for Captain America's board. That's right, just one more. Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. This completed the prompts about a strong friendship set in the 20th century and explores themes of sacrifice. That is all of the prompts for Captain America's board already completed. And I only added 1 book to my TBR other than the group book. So there you go. Let me go to Goodreads because I haven't pulled this up yet. And we shall discuss, there we go, my thoughts on the book. Representation for twins, LGBTQ, visually impaired, and a fear of dirt and germs, that kind of thing. Archetypes include siblings, sisters, specifically twins, sibling rivalry, trading roles, vampires, moons, dull/bleak vibes, illustrations, and breaking the fourth wall. Controversial topics you can find, trigger warnings you can find on my review, themes you can find on my review. So this is portal magic. I didn't really mention that in this, but it is portal magic. It's character driven. It's dark theme or dark tone. It's in the middle as far as like hard or soft magic system. It's a little bit softer world structure, so we're not getting a strong amount of description about what the setting is. And the themes are definitely on the strong-ish side. It's mostly a narrative and dialogue led, not so much an action led. Alright, so things that I disliked about this, the parents were terrible. I understand the necessity of it for the character's story, but I hated it a lot. It was to the point where it affected how, like, my enjoyment of the book. Like, I couldn't enjoy a large portion of the beginning because of how frustrating the parents were. The first half was really more expository. It wasn't very captivating in its writing. It was just kind of like telling us all this background and this, like, the exposition was the majority of the first part instead of it being like a brief exposition. No. This was very heavy on that exposition portion of the book. I also feel like there were a couple of, there were a couple of gross comments. An example being like a bath. Somebody's taking a bath and somebody else says something, like one of the sisters, I think, is taking a bath and the other sister says something like marinating in her own dirt. You know, we didn't need that. I could have been taking a bath while reading this, and that would have ruined my experience very much. You know, I'm just saying, like, I understand the need for disgusting things in books at times, but there are some things that I feel like are unnecessary. That is one of them. The mention of potty talk. Any kind of potty talk. I'm sorry. I work in a preschool, okay? I get enough potty talk. I want to get away from that when I'm reading a book, okay? Okay. Let's see. There was never really a need for her to break the fourth wall. She breaks the fourth wall a couple times, and it's not really necessary for the book. So it was her just kind of trying to be able to do it, but she shouldn't have, in my opinion. She should have let it be. And not tried to force a technique that wasn't necessary for the storytelling of this book, or wasn't like, it wasn't really done that well. It was just kind of there. It just kind of happened. It didn't enhance the story to me. Things that I did like were, there were quite a good number of very pretty quotes in here. A lot of the themes were really well done. Not all of them, I don't think, because I said a large part, so maybe there were a couple that weren't the best, but a lot of them were done really well, apparently. We got a name tie-in, like a tie-in of the name of the story, which I always really love when we get an explanation as to why the name of the book is what it is. Huge plot twist in here that I really did not expect. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. I think it was towards the end, but it surprised me, whatever it was. So I don't remember. It was so long ago. Honestly, I read this in February, at the end of February, and as I sit down to film this, it is the beginning of April. So it's been over a month. My brain doesn't remember, and it's a very short book, so there's also that. It's not like I sat, you know, consuming this for an extended period of time, because it's a short book. I'm rounding this one down though, because I did not like this as much as I enjoyed Every Heart a Doorway. There were some elements that I really did love, but I do think that to, you know, make it a little bit more clear that I liked this one less than the previous, I wanted to round it down. Now, would I potentially end up changing my mind on that and rounding it back up? Maybe, because I do still really think that this did build a lot of our, it was this was a big amount. It was just an installment of character development for 2 characters in Every Heart a Doorway that we encounter and we see some of, but we don't see entirely. So we got to experience more of that in those 2 characters here, and like their history, and like go backwards and come back to what we encountered in Every Heart a Doorway of them. So there's that. I'm not gonna go on too long. I ended up giving this a 4-star, but honestly it's like a 4.5. And I could have rounded it up. So it's kind of one of those, unsure of where to put it. Okay, so for the center prompt for Captain America's board, it was donate to a local organization, and I ended up doing a Goodwill donation. I know it's not technically a local organization, but I did clean out some things, and so I took some of those things that I went through to Goodwill and donated them. So that is what I did. Somebody's car alarm is going off. It's over. Oh, that was like the longest alarm. Okay, so this is my completed board for Captain America. Do 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 do. Okay, I think I've had it up on the screen long enough. So the next board I'm going to talk about today is Thor. Thor is one of the boards that I absolutely wanted to get. One of the first boards, or it was one of the boards that I wanted to get at the very beginning of the readathon, like as soon as possible. Because he is one of my all-time favorite characters. He is my man crush. He is a beautiful human. His character arc makes my soul so happy. And his face makes my eyes happy. So I did use Legendborn for a couple of prompts on this board. That was the group book during the month that this board was released. I used that for a book about mythology, a book about nobility or royalty, and a character trying to prove themselves. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting. It was like one of those times where you're trying to squish the letters together a little bit too hard. I used my first character power. So character powers are what you get when you complete a character's board. So once you complete the board, you're able to have access to their superpower once, and you're able to do a specific thing. So what I ended up doing was I used Captain America's superpower, which is to retroactively use one of Captain America's books for an additional board. And so I took Captain America's Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and I applied this to the prompt Set in Another World on Thor's board. Let's move on. And I meant to put this over here and be all cute. But did I do that? Absolutely not. So the next book that I completed for Thor's board was All the Right Places by Jennifer Nevin. Wow, what an experience this was. I believe I read this during a vlog for the weekend readathon. Between this and Perks of Being a Wallflower, very similar in some ways. But Perks is so much better in my opinion, like in the quality of how well it's done and less problematic. So, talk about real quick where this applied and what I thought. This applied on Thor's board 4, set in a small town and discusses depression. Follows 2 characters, Finch and Violet, both of which are dealing with some mental illness struggles. They met on the top of a tower thing. They start to get to know each other. And yeah, I don't even know how to describe it really. Definitely check out the trigger warnings on this one because there are a crap ton, because it is about mental health, mental illness. It does have representation for BIPOC, but it's not the best representation. It's kind of garbage in some spots, at least, that I recall. It does have virgin representation. Mediocre, I think. I can't remember. Archetypes include high school project partners, book lover, writer, Virginia Woolf, Bronte sisters losing virginity, ex-pro athlete, and angst, which is pretty much the majority of this book. If it's not actually like legit mental health problems, then it's just angst. Let's get into the dislikes. There was a comment about glasses making you ugly. That's all I'm going to say about it. There was a comment, too many girls are built like boys. From a male character's perspective, was said. Wanting to say the F word, but just doing the F dash dash dash. If you're gonna do that, then you might as well say the word, because everyone's going to say it in their head. Like, I don't swear. I don't get mad when other people swear. I don't, like, it's not my favorite thing, but I don't, like, you do you, and I'll do me. So in a book, you know, yeah, sometimes if it's like overly done, it's gonna bother me. But if you're gonna put F dash dash dash, then don't even bother. Like, if you're not gonna substitute for like an alternate, you know, like say what the crap or what the cat hair, like my dad says. You know, like, it's one thing to like substitute with other words or phrases, like alternative words, but it's another thing to just like that's just pointless at that point if you're just dash dash dashing. Like, no, if you're not saying something else, or like say, and like honestly some like replacement words are pretty stupid too, let's be real. Anyway, in the beginning, honestly, most of the beginning especially and particularly from Finch's perspective was terrible. He had an awful but he sucked at the beginning. Okay, a quote from this book is, quote, "the largest man," end quote. That's all I'm gonna say about that. The high school thing was made, like, in general, the way that they played out high school, it was made to seem much more childish and like drama-y and angsty than it is in real life for most people. Violet abused her situation in regards to, she recently lost someone, and she kind of abused the fact that people are giving her leeway, and like used it as an excuse to not do things even though she could do them. And it wasn't that she was like she was grieving too much, she just was like taking advantage of people, you know, trying to help her. Basically everything on page 34. Just the whole page should be burned. Slut shaming and virgin shaming, which is ridiculous that you couldn't manage to put both in the same book. Over the top bullying that is very, you know, bullying exists, but it doesn't look like this. We always are given these images of what bullying looks like that are so excessive and like not what it really is. And so people don't think that what they're experiencing is bullying because all they're given is these kinds of examples that are like so blatant, so outright, and unrealistic, honestly. Okay, so she pulled away from the kiss. Like, they went to kiss and she pulled away. And his assumption was she's obviously a virgin. In what world is that the only logical thought when somebody pulls back from kissing you? Like, why is that your first thought? My first thought would be, oh crap, my breath smells. I need some gum. Or, oh man, there's something between my teeth. Or, oh no, the moment's over. This is awkward. Or something like that. Anything, you know, anything that I would think that would not be the thing that I would think or assume about somebody. And why, like, there's no way that you would be able to know that based off of somebody pulling away from a kiss. It doesn't make any sense. And it was stupid. Okay, the person of color best friend is made to seem like he cares only about sex and like he's uneducated. Very horrible stereotyping in that front, and it was awful. I hated it a lot. Okay, but there were actually some good things in this book. So let's talk about them. There were some gorgeous quotes. One of them being, "I love the world that is my room." Girl, same. But like, beautiful quotes, and there were quotes that were mentioned from different people throughout. Like, there were lots of quoting. The book quoted lots of different people and literature. Pages 104 through 105. Chef's kiss. The "before I die, I want to blank" scenes. Like, they went to this place and it had that, and they like filled in the blank with all these different things, and it was so cute and I loved it. The germ of happiness, page 190, so good. Really good plot twist with a particular character, Amanda, a side character. Really good twist with her. This part. "These kids who never did anything to anyone except to be born with different brains and different wiring." Oh, so true. All right. There's also this part about writing down the negatives, but they don't need to hang around after you do. Words can be bullies. So there were some really good messages, I guess, is what really stood out to me within this. Is like, there were some really good messages, but there were some big mistakes too. By the end of this, I ended up rating it 4 stars. But it honestly is somewhere between a 3 and a 4. Like, might I lower it? Perhaps. Like, it's not like with Perks, where Perks, the negatives were mostly overridden by intention. Like, in this, the negatives were not intentional per se. Like, they were just crappy choices. But most of them surrounded around a few main elements, like specific elements, and it has to do with Jennifer Niven as an author not having, you know, either being too far from the age of high school, A, B, being a very immature author and like just needing to like make her characters more real and her world more real and believable. And, you know, maybe in her writings since 2015, maybe she's improved. I don't know. But this was not it. Okay, so the last book that I have to talk about for Thor's board is Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. This completes the prompts about Vikings and about siblings. So, let's get into it. Book follows, oh, what's her name? What's her name again? Aska? I'm really not sure about the pronunciations of these names. I don't know a lot about Viking culture. As far as that goes, like, I know vague things. It's not something I've studied very much. Total transparency here. So it follows Asuka, who is a part of a clan. That's the word I'm looking for. She's a part of one clan, and there's this rival clan, and they meet at this battlefield and they fight it out every year. Or no, every 5 years. I'm sorry. Every 5 years. Well, this time things are a little bit different because suddenly she sees her brother on the battlefield in the enemy's clothing, like on the enemy side. And this brother she saw die 5 years ago. So her dead brother not only is alive, but is fighting with the enemy. So things get a little bit complicated. Well, when she gets seen, or when she sees her brother, she ends up getting captured as well and taken hostage, and then she is turned into a slave there, and she's trying to figure out everything that happened, why her brother, you know, is betrayed them, and, you know, all of this stuff, and she's trying to figure it all out. It's very hard to describe this plot. Basically, we're following a character who got captured, a warrior who was taken hostage and turned into a slave, and is trying to figure out, like, she's a slave of someone's household, and she's trying to figure out why her brother abandoned them, and yeah. Let's talk about what I put in my review. Again, trigger warnings, controversial topics, themes, all gonna be on my Goodreads review. You can go find them there. Representation includes religious beliefs, not anything like of our world, but like they have religious beliefs. There are characters who have faith. Like most of the characters have like believe in, there's these two different gods that the two different clans descended from. So they believe that it's like in their blood. This rivalry is like in their blood to them. We also do have a character who has who is an amputee, so that is also there. We have archetypes for, again, Vikings, warriors, faith and religion, rituals, platonic friendship, father-daughter relationship, feuds, capture, winter, found family, battles, fighting and raids, siblings, specifically brother and sister, and enemies to lovers. So as far as if it's plot or character driven, it's pretty much in the middle. I would say probably leaning a little bit more towards character than anything else. There's not really magic per se. It's set in another world though. It's not really super magical. I would say, like, it's a different kind of fantasy. Hard or soft world structure, I would say it's kind of on the soft-ish side. The themes are kind of in the middle, not super strong, not super subtle. And then it's definitely mixed between action, narrative, and dialogue. So let's get to some thoughts on this book, because they're interesting. It was an interesting read. Okay, so there was a really sad typo in this book. It made me very sad, because they forgot the vowel. Like, they spelled knife without the I. I don't understand how you make the, like, I understand that mistakes happen, but like, how do you get through printing and not, you know, because they have a check. I know that there can be printing errors, so it doesn't necessarily mean that she typed it wrong, but one would think that they would have seen that at the, like, it's very close to the beginning is why I say that. You would have think that they would have noticed it if they would have flipped through at least the last, like, the first chapter or two. But anyway, you know, it's not that big a deal. All right, the whole quote, I wanted to beat up this person, or the whole quote, I could kill them all right now, like this or that, and like describing all the ways that they could kill every person in the room, and like really wanting to hurt everybody and all of that. Yeah. Oh yeah, we get that in here. And that is not my favorite thing. Think Selena Sardouthian. Think of her and like how at the beginning she's like, I could escape this moment if I wanted to. I could kill them all right now if I wanted to, or I want to slit all their throats and blah blah blah. Please. If you really could, then you really would. So let's not sit here and annoy every reader with all of these details. Okay, so I know this is a very small thing, but she had this random shaved part of her head, which is not a problem. The problem is that it was only mentioned once in all of her hairstyles. So like, stand goal achieved. Yay me. So it was just mentioned the one time. And I also don't know how culturally accurate that would be with the idea that this is like set more in the time period of Vikings, you know, thriving, and you know, like they don't have any, you know, technology or electricity or anything like that in this world. So I just don't see how they would pull that off very easily, to do like a shaved part of the head with like, because that seems to me like not something that would have come from any kind of white culture. To me, I feel like that is something that we learned from African culture, like to do partial shavings or like patterned shavings and things like that. I don't think it's really a white culture thing. I could be wrong, but I feel like that all originated in African culture and we borrowed it because, duh, we borrow everything. But, you know, it's not a big thing. It's just something I noticed. All right, so 100 pages in, it really felt like nothing was happening. Like, I know that things happened in that 100 pages, but it felt like meh, if that makes any sense. Like there wasn't really any exposition, I would say, so I didn't really have any introduction to the characters that really got me attached to anybody, that made me feel invested in, you know, we kind of jumped straight into some action. And although that works in some scenarios, what doesn't work is jumping into action in such a way that you didn't get the opportunity to care about the characters first or have any feelings about the characters yet. You just kind of jumped straight into it. But anyway, I'm gonna try to say this without spoiling, but basically there was this whole idea about abandonment that I don't think was very accurate to like what really is abandonment, and it was kind of unfair and kind of a little problematic. Okay, taking advantage of high emotions and kissing somebody when they're in an extremely emotional state. This is one of the things that bothers me more than anything else in my life, is when somebody takes advantage of somebody being in a state of high emotion and does something that is, it's not the time, because their emotions, their situation at that moment, if it's not about you, if those high emotions are not about you, then you need to sit down. Because that's taking advantage of somebody at that point. If those high emotions were related to you and your relationship with them in some way, okay, fine, whatever. But in any other circumstance, absolutely not. Sit down. Okay. There was also a random time jump where we kind of skipped over the whole in-between period just so we could get to the action part. Like, we skipped over all the prep before going into a battle, basically, is like the best way I can describe it. Like, we just kind of jumped. Like, all this time we've been like going through time at a normal pace and like a consistent pace, and then all of a sudden we skip a couple days because it was too boring to write about, I guess. So, things I did like. There were some solid plot twists in here. There was also some good character and relationship development as well, and some good plot choices, especially particularly from the midpoint and on. There was a handful of pretty lines, and there were some really cute romantic moments that I really enjoyed. But overall, I'm slightly conflicted about how I feel about this book, simply for the fact that it was just aight. But like, it wasn't bad. And I could potentially enjoy more books like this if they had a little bit of improvement to them. If that makes sense. Like, I like some of the ideas. The plot was decent. I just think that, you know, pacing wasn't perfect. There were some mistakes. There were some things that could have been better. But I didn't hate it. And I think that it has potential. I think the author has potential, and I think that this kind of writing and this kind of world, this kind of, you know, setup has good potential. I'd never put my books where I mean to put them this whole time. That should have been right there. So, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about this. I did give it 3 stars, but honestly it's kind of between a 3 and a 4, I would say. Like it's a 3.5, maybe a 4. Like these two, honestly, I could probably switch their ratings and do this one as the 3 and this one as the 4. And it honestly is probably more accurate to how I actually feel about the books. But anyway, those are those books. For Thor's board was to write a self-affirmation. I've done this previously. I went ahead and I did it again, specific to things that are going on in my life right now and recent developments and things that I'm working on in my life. You know, self-care and actually going to the doctor and getting taking care of some of the issues that I've had for most of my life, that I've swept under the rug. Yeah, that's one of my goals, that I'm going to actually take care of myself. That is everything for Thor's board. This is what it looks like completed. I'm going to take a sip of my tea. This is actually water, but it's got raspberry tea, raspberry black tea flavor in it, and it's quite good. I'm not usually a raspberry person, but right now I am. Alright, so that is everything that I read for Captain America and Thor's board. Alright, I am about to film my next video, so I will see you guys in a second for me in a week for you, because I'm going to move back to like doing weekly uploads. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, whatever time it is for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can join the Bear Scouts and be notified every time I post new videos. I will see you soon with another one, and peace out, Bear Scouts.
About your worries and your stress. I mean it, bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest at ease with just the bare necessities of life. Yeah, with just the bare necessities of life.